us for just a moment. We are hoping this will not be our most chaotic live stream ever because we are here in our house with all of the fuzzy pets today. So this may or may not be a wonderful idea. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. Bear with us for just a couple minutes, and we will go ahead and get started. Okay, so that looks good. We are live. We're in horizontal orientation. You can see the chat. You can reach the keyboard?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, let's let some people start trickling in here. We've got 4 watching now. So just as a refresher, this is our 5th live stream ever. This is our 3rd monthly live stream because we were so encouraged by you guys that you wanted something like this monthly to have an opportunity to have a conversation. So we've really enjoyed it so far. We plan to continue doing it as long as it remains interesting and people keep showing up, and as long as we're sharing relevant, helpful information, we are happy to do this. And we've discussed this a lot, and we consider this live stream sort of like our public office hours. So this is where we're available, we're here, ready to chat, and hopefully we can answer some helpful questions, not only for you, but for other people who have the same question as you. So this is a great opportunity for us to answer multiple people's questions at the same time in a 2-hour time frame. And then, of course, those questions are always available for other people to rewatch later, which is super helpful because at this point, I don't want to exaggerate and say we're getting emails from people every single day, but we are getting lots and lots and lots of messages. It's close to every day at this point that we're getting questions about the startup visa, the business manager visa, immigration, referrals for our immigration lawyer, all kinds of questions from people, and when they write to me, they always share, their whole story and why they're coming to Japan and what they want to do. And I love getting those emails, so I don't want that to stop. Many of those emails turn into our new consultation clients, or I'm able to just easily refer them to other professionals, or just sort of give them a little nudge in the right direction. So, but this is an opportunity to have those questions asked by one person, and then many people will get the answer. So that's just an overview. Now we have 8 people watching. These have been averaging, I believe our average attendance for the duration of the 2 hours is about 30 people. Our peak attendance was about 45. So we're still a very small channel, but we are one of approximately 700 people who successfully went through the startup visa to business manager visa program. So I am sort of starting to realize that this is actually helpful for other people to be able to talk to someone who's been through the process. But this month's main topic is honeybees. Off-topic questions are always welcome, but we're going to start. Well, first of all, this is the layout that we've come up with, is that we'll start by giving just a brief refresher of what we've done over the past month and what we have coming up for the next month. And then we will answer the questions that I was sent ahead of time. This month we have, I think, 4 questions ahead of time, so we'll answer those first, and then we'll get into the chat questions. The first hour, we're going to try and focus on honeybees, but again, any questions are always welcome because we want to talk about what is important to the people who are here in the chat right now. So,
And who's in the chat right now? We got Cody. Good evening, Cody. Watching on the ferry to Vancouver Island.
Cool.
We rode that
You've
ferry.
been on that ferry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And good morning, Darren. We got your question before it was deleted, so We're going to get to that. That's
Yeah,
sort of
Darren, I don't know where your question went, but we just read it a few minutes ago, so we'll be sure to answer that.
That's the main topic I wanted to talk about anyway, was planting pollinators.
So you guys are on the same wavelength for sure, Darren. And Stacy, we've got Stacy and probably Wayne too. I know you guys have been excited to hear about the bees as well. So let's go ahead. I'll do the overview. I made notes again, so we are prepared here. Here is what we've done for the past month. We've got a lot of things checked off our list. Many sort of long-term projects have reached a milestone that we're able to say, okay, that's done for now, moving on to the next. So the first thing, all of our preparation for the new honeybees that we will be receiving is complete. So the first round of honeybee expansion is ready to go. And in fact, immediately following this live stream, we won't be able to go over time. We'll have to stop right at 10 o'clock today because Evan will be running out the door to go meet our bee sensei and collect the first batch of new colonies to arrive. So we'll be getting 18 new colonies soon. Evan has completed the construction and we've got them in place for a total of 18 new colonies, which will bring us up to 25. And we'll get the first 6 of the 18 new colonies immediately following the live stream. We've also just completed our preparation work to collect rare and delicious Sakura cherry blossom honey.
It's good, y'all.
Yeah, it's really good, and I'm so proud of Evan. He got the timing just right. So you'll talk about that later, I'm sure, about the process, why it's tricky, and what we had to do. But the preparation for that is complete, and they are now, as we speak, collecting cherry blossom honey, which is very exciting. We also completed the first phase of our tomato and tomatillo garden expansion. So we added 3 new rows, and we finished all of the horizontal crossbars using free bamboo material from the neighborhood. Evan has been very busy nurturing all of the seedlings for the year. So he has them in various stages of stratification, seedlings, and transplanting, and in the greenhouse. That's pretty much his department. I don't have a whole lot to do with that. So he has been busy with that. Our rock wall construction outside of the guest house, sort of tying together the guest house and the garage for the future retro shop, that has also been completed. So if you watched that video, you saw there was a minor setback at the end there because of the unexpected heavy rain, and now the wall is completed and it looks beautiful. Phase 2 renovation at the guest house is now done, and many people have been asking if the tub has been tested and how it works, and it works perfect. So we've got a beautiful, basically looks like brand new tub, but it's actually from the 1950s or even earlier cast iron tub. That has been something we've been waiting for a long time, and so far we're getting great reviews about it from our guests. So excellent work on the tub. And we're also staying busy with the consulting. So we currently have 2 real estate clients. As we sort of get used to the workflow and learning how to do this professionally and correctly, our real estate clients, we currently have a maximum of 2, and we're at 2. But both of them are working through their process, and they're both getting close to the final payment and completion stage, at which point we'll then be able to move on and collect additional clients.
Thanks, Stacy. She said I did a good job.
Yes.
Wait till you see it in person.
You did. They will get to see it, yeah. And then we've also had some just the general consultation calls, which is people talking about the startup visa, or they have questions about, logistics of moving to Japan and business ideas and that sort of thing, which is great. We really enjoy those too because we get to meet a lot of people and hear their interesting ideas and sort of help them formulate a plan or at least their next steps and what their next steps can be. So that's enough for now. That's all we've done the past month. I just threw my notebook. Should we hop into questions before we move into what's next?
Sure.
Let's answer a few questions so we're just not yammering about ourselves this whole time. So our first question, go ahead and answer Darren's question first since he's here.
Sure. And good morning to Alex.
Good morning,
From
Alex. Osaka. Hello in Osaka.
Yeah, so today I just wanted to, talk about anything and everything concerning beekeeping in Japan and, what we're trying to call natural beekeeping, which we don't have a ton of experience in, so, it's difficult to really speak authoritatively about this subject, but, there's no one else out there on the internet really talking about this in English at least, so, take what you can get. And the two big problems with keeping bees in Japan, European honeybees in Japan, is, in my opinion, it's first that the ecosystem is, it's a lot more varied, I would say, than in a continent where you have big swaths of, the same type of ecosystem where the bees can source their nectar from. And the second is the murder hornets, the Suzumebachi, the giant killer hornets. And of course those are famous, but the first one is the more, interesting one to me, which is the problem with the ecosystem. And I use the word feral to describe what we're dealing with the landscape here, which means that it was once under cultivation. The hillsides around us were once all citrus orchards, and they've fallen into disrepair for the past several decades, and they've ended up in these feral forests where they're too thick to even walk through. I mean, they're just really jungles.
To look up on the mountains, you would think that they've always been forests because it's so thick and it's just so, it looks like it's been there forever. But when you look at historical photos of the island, at least in our area specifically, looking at these islands, they were all beautifully terraced and maintained citrus orchards previously, and as the population declined and the farmers started moving there closer to home and the number of farmers decreased, they've just been left back to nature, and it has only been a few decades for them to turn back into just complete jungle.
Yeah, and I was really inspired, I've mentioned this on a couple of our videos, but I was really inspired when we were living in Oaxaca, Mexico, and got a chance to hike through the forests there, and they're just pristine, with a tree being every like 10 feet or so, just open park-like setting. And the reason for that is just that the people go up there and collect firewood and kindling from the forest, which keeps everything clean. And then they do actually have cows grazing in the forest there too, which is interesting to see. But so I realized that the big thing that is the big thing that is helping to keep the forests nice and suitable for humans to go out and use them is just the humans to go out and use them in the first place. So I'm thinking about ways that we can do that. So we mentioned collecting bamboo for our trellises. In times past, people would go out and collect mushrooms and herbs. So it would be nice to be doing that. Of course, we have an immense wild boar problem on the island too, and so we do have a little collective that is hunting the boar using traps, and then they've converted former school kitchen into a abattoir for processing the meat. And that's a really cool thing, but there's other things that we could be doing just to be using that biomass, particularly using biochar is something I'm really interested in. And then just managing the woods for particular species that in our case are going to give us honey is going to be I think a great way moving forward to revitalize those woods and give people a reason to go out and maintain them in a useful.
Aussie in Japan says hi from Tokyo. Need some goats up in those hills.
Right. Yeah, and goats and sheep we're definitely looking at. Goats are pretty destructive, so I'm thinking more towards sheep because we have so much citrus here that the sheep would be a very handy critter to be going and maintaining the what could be pasture land below the citrus trees, but goats for sure to go up into the hills and do the first pass. You
Yeah.
know, so we might not be keeping goats. We might not be breeding goats, but I think that goats would be great to be going out and clearing, and also probably pigs.
What
Uh,
about chickens? Those are definitely in the future. I I love being a chicken nanny, so we will have we've got a piece of land actually set aside for our future chicken paradise. It's just a matter of getting the time and the funds to get that constructed. But we have a nice long skinny piece of land that's halfway in between our house and the guest house. It's got a little parking pad in front. So the long-term plan for that specific location is for it to be they won't actually be free range because we have so many hawks on the island, but it'll be basically just a long enclosed, as close to free range as possible with some high nets to protect them from the hawks swooping down. We've got plans for chickens and eggs. That's coming up.
yeah, and then with the chickens, I would ideally like to be going out into the forests and clearing them and bringing stuff back to them to rummage through, to forage through, and at the end of this long chicken run that she's describing, we want to have a big compost processing area. So like twice a year, we would go through and scoop up all the compost with like a front loader and
Yeah, because our plan, we did a lot of experimenting with chickens in New Orleans because we had never kept chickens before, and then they immediately became my favorite animal. And we were absorbing just so much YouTube content about how to, design the best chicken coop and what's the best way to handle the mess and everything. That's actually when we first started watching Stephen Cornett with Nature's Always Right, who came out and visited us actually, which was kind of like a little bit of a starstruck moment because we'd been watching his chicken YouTube videos forever, and then he came and visited us and made a video about us. But we plan to do the deep bedding method for chickens, if you're familiar with what that is. Keeps the smell down entirely, and it's very low maintenance. But I saw we had
Prodigal Ink.
Prodigal Ink, welcome. Always nice to see you. He says 70% capacity, huge, great job. I can't wait for the year 2 update. So what that's referring to is the next 2 months at Benton Guesthouse. We are booked at 70%, which we have not reached before. These are going to be by far our busiest guest house months for April and May, but don't get too excited because we still have 0 bookings for June. So so we'll see. But I have been saying that our bookings here tend to come about 2 months in advance. So looking at the year continues to be a little scary because we have no bookings for June. July's really good. August, September, October, November are like reasonable for being that far out. But still 0 bookings for June, except for our friends Casey and Woody are going to come visit us from New Orleans, which is very exciting. But so it's still, we're learning the patterns of tourists here. In New Orleans, we definitely booked about 3 or 4 months in advance, and we also had guests staying multiple days a week or longer. Even was fairly common because people were traveling with dogs and they loved staying in our fenced backyard. So it's different here. Almost all of our bookings for April and May are one-nighters. So that's why I made that post saying you might not hear from me very much for 8 weeks because I'll be cleaning the guest house almost every day. So it's very exciting. We'll see how this goes. This will be just 8 very busy weeks. So that's exciting, but don't get too excited because still, 0 bookings in June. That might be my vacation time. Who knows?
And for comparison, what's 70% capacity is compared to what is the number that we were given from the tourist?
50%.
So
50% is like if you're at 50% capacity, you're doing pretty good.
Well, he said that was like max capacity, like that we could expect. So we're over.
Well, I wouldn't say. I think what. So we had a tourism professional come visit us, and he was talking to us about goals and how to set pricing and things like that. And so I think what he was saying is that if you're over 50% capacity, you might not be charging enough. You could consider adjusting your rates so you sort of get back down to 50% capacity, so you're making a higher income with less turnover. But right now, our visa is very dependent on us earning income, so I'm not going to be adjusting our rates higher, at least for the next foreseeable 12 months. We're going to keep things as they are, stick with our plan, and see how it goes. But yeah, that's a good point. We've got a few new comments here. Alex, I'm starting beekeeping near Osaka this year, so I started watching your channel in particular. Great. Awesome.
And you can keep chickens and bees together, we learned.
Yes, they cohabitate together very well. My favorite aspect of them living together is that the chickens keep the grass down around the beehive, so you don't have to mow or weed whack around the hives, which they really don't like sometimes. So just keeps the bee stress lower when the chickens handle that lawn maintenance for you, because they're not making the high-pitched sounds that bees don't like. Prodigal Ink says it's going to be intense, but you got it. Thank you. Thanks for the encouragement. Yeah, I'm really excited. I haven't done this much guest house turnover in such a short period of time ever. In New Orleans, we had longer stays, so doing it every day will be a new experience. And let's see, Sacktown Chad says, we'll be passing by in May on the Shimanami Kaido. Unfortunately, you were booked. Aw, man, sorry about that. But feel free to, wave or reach out when you're passing by if we happen to have time that day. Always happy to meet for coffee or just say hi as you ride by on your bicycles. Hope you have a great trip.
Danny always appreciates advance notice, so.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, back to Darren's answering Darren's question there.
Yes.
So yeah, a big thing that we're focusing on is growing pollinator species, and I like language, so I just want to say that the pollinator is the insect, right? We call them pollinator plants, which that's just a quirk of the language. The plants themselves are not actually the active pollinator, it's the insect, and so you're providing a source for the pollinator insect, just to clarify. Yeah, so we're looking at we're planting huge numbers of pollinator plants, and we're looking at how that we can do that feasibly. So back to that 30,000 foot view of just the feral forest that I'm talking about. I think one really easy low impact way to be doing that is just to be going out into the forest and cutting down trees that you don't like and replacing them with trees that you do like, and in this case pollinator species. And that's something I'm thinking about as just a super duper easy way for me that doesn't require pruning, doesn't require maintenance really, other than just going in, ideally clearing the forest for firewood or for biochar or for mushrooms or for herbs or for blah, 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 like once or twice a year. But in terms of planting and maintaining, like crops for the bees, that's a big issue, and I'm looking for data on that, like hard data that we can use, and it's just really hard to find. And just one thing to emphasize is that you need a ton of land, or acres, hectares of land to be doing this. It's for one thing, Western honeybees they're specialist feeders, so they're going to find something that is blooming, and they're just going to target it specifically and over again, and they're going to ignore other things that are blooming at the same time. And that is how you get the single varietal honey that we're looking for. That's how you get the citrus honey and the sakura honey that we're going for right now. And so a lot of people are saying, you know, why not just use Japanese honeybees? And one of the reasons is that they don't do that. They're much more of a they spread their collection out, so you're not going to get.
Generalist.
They're more generalists, so they're not going to give you the pure citrus honey. So that's one reason.
Do you want to explain for a minute how that works? Generalist versus specialist?
Sure. I thought I just okay. Yeah. Well, so the Western honeybees, they target a specific plant, and when it's blooming, they just determine that it's a good source for them. They just exclusively will get honey from that source. And the generalists are the Japanese honeybees, so they're going to go out and get stuff from anything that happens to be blooming to some extent. So with crops, you know, it's a really they're both effective pollinators, but the European honeybees are going to give you a single varietal honey from your crops that you might be planting for food, basically for fruit or whatnot. So for that, again, you need a lot of these plants, because if it's not enough to get their interest, they're just going to ignore it. So a lot of times you'll I mean, what I'm doing basically, so like, what am I planting? I thought about making some notes about everything that I'm planting, and I just thought, gosh, you know, I'm basically planting everything. I'm just scouring the internet to try and find any information about any kind of seed or any type of a plant that is good for the honeybees. And I'm ordering online, and I've got seeds going, and I'm just gonna plant them out and just see. And so, what you see though on the internet is, you know, some person will say I get a huge amount of bees on my plant here. Another person will say I don't get any bees on my plant here. And so there's just so many variables, you know, temperature and humidity and whatever else happens to be blooming at that time. And another thing is just that, again, you have to have enough of that plant to where the bees are really interested in it. So, yeah, you're talking about acres of plants that you're going to want to plant. If you want to plant clover, right, you're going to need an entire field of clover, and that is going to be that's only going to be enough for a couple of bees hives, right? So, yeah. So long story short, the only real hard numbers I could get on that was from a YouTube video where I was trying to learn about mobile pollination services that have been going on for several decades now in North America, and I happened to find a video where they were talking about cranberry pollination in the northeastern United States, and the beekeeper said that I think he said in the 80s he used to go up with 2 hives per acre, and at that stocking density he would get a nice crop of cranberry honey, in addition to getting the fee from the cranberry grower for his pollination services. And over time, the cranberry growers had requested more and more bees, to the point where now they request they rent 8 honeybee colonies per acre. So we went from 2 to 8, and at 8, the beekeeper said that he now has to supplementary feed his bees that are there. And then in addition, a lot of those bees just don't survive because there's nothing for them to eat. And nowadays, this is another thing I wanted to talk about. There's a massive, the honeybee industry in the United States is collapsing right now, and it's going around the world. It is affecting us in Japan too, but that's because of these crazy pollination practices where they're going out and trucking their bees around, and et cetera, et cetera. But so with that, then that's about the only hard number I could find, is somewhere between 2 and 8 colonies per acre. So that's 5 and 40 colonies per hectare, I think, if my math is good there. So at 2 colonies per acre, you are pollinating your fruit trees, and you're also getting a crop of honey. And at 8 colonies, they've determined just through the free market, you know, cost-benefit analysis, that they're getting a better yield of cranberries, but they are no longer getting a honey crop. So, you know, that's just some basic agronomy there, some figuring on what is most cost effective for you to do there. But somewhere between 2 and 8 colonies per acre on that specific crop is what you need to plant. So just that's something to think about. And so one of the things that we're thinking about doing then is planting hedges, and that's a way to think linearly instead of thinking about acreage, instead of thinking about area, and that's going to enable us to cram a lot more pollinator plants into a small space, in addition to some other benefits for us. But
so that sort of segues to some of the other questions coming in. So remember, we had other questions from Childless Cat Lady 25 about bees and the processing and sort of the time it takes. And then also Prodigal Ink had a similar question. What about the post-processing of the goods? Are you guys packaging and selling at local places? And the other question is, when you have your honey ready to sell, do you have to pass some sort of test, or can you sell any honey that you have? And in general, how long does it take for you to be able to get honey to sell? So those questions together could be something that you can talk about here.
yeah, well, the test is just self-reporting. Thank goodness. We don't have to get it tested. We just use a device called a refractometer, which measures the percent of sugar in the honey, and it has to be above 80% sugar, or it'll potentially go bad. So that's the only thing we're doing. And we're just writing it on the label that not for consumption under 1 year of age. And
yeah, there's certain. So the regulations are you have to check with the refractometer. Our very first honey harvest video, I did try and get some camera footage through the refractometer so you can see what that looks like. Basically, you put some honey on a piece of glass and close it, and it squishes it flat. And then you look through the eyepiece, and there'll be sort of like there's lines that tell you what the refractivity is. Is that how you would say that?
the refractive index.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you look through it, and it tells you if it's 80% or above is what you're looking for, and that means that the bees have dehydrated it enough that it is at the correct viscosity. Is that correct? Okay.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Okay, so, and then there are a few things that are required for the jar label itself, and that'll be different for every country. So here in Japan, we took a look at what other people's honey jars had, and then our bee mentor told us exactly what was required. So then I designed my own labels, and I showed them to him before getting them all printed. And he said, yes, that's all the information that you need. So we've got a ton of labels we ordered last year. We did not process as much honey as we thought we would our first year. So that means I've still got lots and lots of labels. And yes, the jar design was a big thing to get off the to-do list. And so we went through the process of determining 4 different jar sizes that we wanted to use, and then we came up with price per ounce for the jars. And then I designed labels, so one label fits on all 4 jar sizes, and then I have a secondary sticker that goes on top, and that has the expiration date, which you're required to put on honey in Japan, even though honey theoretically does not expire. And yeah, I should have a jar here for example, but I did not prepare that ahead of time.
And Prodigal Ink is asking about the same thing, and he's saying, so post processing, and are we packaging and selling at any local places? And so there's no post processing for us. We are just selling the pure honey that we just extract it using a centrifuge, and
yeah, so we collect the frames from the hives and bring them back to our honeybee workshop, and we use the spin extractor, and then it's just raw, fresh honey. It goes directly from there into a larger bucket, a metal bucket, and then we go from there directly to the jars and package them, and from there they go to the, we have signed up for 2 Michinoeki farmers markets here on the island. There's other Michinoekis on the other islands we could expand into once we have, once we're processing larger batches and we have more honey to sell. But we were really happy our first year, and our jars sold very quickly. So we only needed to sign up for those 2 farmers markets, and then right at the tail end we were almost sold out from honey just from selling at the local Michinoeki farmers markets. Then I got our website up and running, and then we just sold out immediately for other people buying here in Japan. And the shipping in Japan was very easy. I was worried about shipping glass jars, but Japan Post is just incredibly reliable, fast, affordable, and it works well, the integration with the Shopify website that I set up. So now we had a small harvest last year, so of course it's going to sell out, fairly quickly. But I think we are feeling pretty good about, even if that harvest, becomes increasingly larger and larger. I think there's definitely a need for local honey, and so many. Well, people on the island bought honey, as well as tourists traveling through bought honey. Our smallest jar size was by far the most popular, the smallest 2 sizes. And I think part of that's because people were purchasing them on their travels to give as omiyage gifts once they get home. So they picked up our honey here, brought it home with them, and then giving it out to their friends. One purchase we made online was from a woman in Osaka. She bought a few jars from us at the farmer's market, and then when she got home, she placed an order, I think, for 10 more jars. It's just a matter of getting in a few places, getting some brand recognition, and getting out there. So it's the first time, I've been a small business owner as a self-employed photographer for most of my adult life, but I've never sold a physical product like this. So the marketing is a little bit different, but I think we're figuring it out as we go. It seems to be going okay so far. What other questions have been coming in?
Oh, we got a couple more people talking about the pollinator plant thing. So Darren just says, a ton of land, an acre per colony. Again, I don't know what something like that is probably a good rule of thumb. Not really sure. I don't think anyone really knows for sure. And then Cody says, so your plan is to plant these pollinator species of plants in the areas of cleared forest, and by that he means the forest that we're basically maintaining ourselves. And so that's part of it. And the way that you need to think about the pollinator plants is in terms of, you don't just plant everything, I've been to a lot of pollinator gardens, they call them, at public parks, and they kind of just have 1 or 2 specimens of each species, and the idea is you want to have something always in bloom, right? You hear a lot of home gardeners saying that you want to have something that is always for the bees. And that's not how you want to be thinking. You want to be thinking in terms of individual crops. So what I'm thinking is the biggest crop that we have right now is citrus. And number one, I want to make sure that we have citrus, forever. And so that's just something I've been thinking is wow, all the citrus farmers here are 70 and 80. So we're going to need to be getting into the citrus game, right? Reasonably soon with our agricultural endeavors here on Ōmishima. Number 2, sakura is an economic honey source for us here, and we're doing that right now. And so number 2, I'm thinking about how to expand the number of cherry blossom trees, and so I got a bunch of those going right now, and we're going to be planting those in hedges. And
this is a cool idea. I am so excited. In 10 years, we're going to have an amazing hedge.
Yeah, in 10 years, Ōmishima is going to be known for its cherry hedges. And that's just, I'm doing the English hedgerow idea where I'm going to be, I'm going to be planting these not just cherries, but other stuff, like 1 foot apart in just a line going down the borders of our land. And then once they get up to about 2 inches around, I'm going to hack them almost 90% through, so there's just a thin flap of bark keeping them connected to the trunk, and lean them against each other, and then use some stakes to keep them in place, and tie the thing all together at the top so that you end up with a fence that the wild boar cannot penetrate, and then it's just going to keep growing and flowering and living its best life. And I should only have to be going and doing like a little prune once a year, and then relaying that hedge every 20 to 50 years, which I'll be dead by then. So the net value for the next guy to worry about. But so that is one idea. So we're going out and planting, and then in addition to the trees that are doing there, we're doing strips of shrubs, like herbs, which are also something they're going to be going for. But so the basic idea is I'm planting just everything I can possibly find.
But also the bee yards themselves can serve as part of the land area needed. So our bee yard is
like a meadow.
It's a big size, and not very much percentage of the yard itself is going to be hives, and then we have to have road access to that. But all the rest of that can be planted, like Evan said, as a meadow. So right now we just have the fence edge that he's got a bunch of pollinator plants going on. But the entire yard itself will also eventually be planted. I keep saying that I just want a ridiculous amount of flowers that are just growing and blooming all throughout the year. So there will always be something blooming. I want it to be a disgusting amount of flowers, just like a terrifying amount of flowers. So many flowers, so many flowers.
And so the idea is to identify a species that the bees are going to really go for, and that is going to give us an economical honey harvest, and also that does not conflict with the timing of the citrus or the cherries, so it doesn't conflict with the established sources that we have. And so once that is done, then we basically just spam that out wherever it works, whether it's going to be in the woodlands, whether it's going to be in the hedge, or whether it's going to be on the pastures underneath the citrus trees. So,
Now to segue real quick, Alex G says, I wrote a comment to one of your videos that beekeeping in Japan requires interaction with official authorities, in particular notification start of beekeeping, number of colonies, and registration as a beekeeper if you want to sell bee products. Yes, we have taken care of that. So in our instance, Ōmishima Island has a beekeepers association, which has about a dozen members, beekeepers on the island. Only a few of them are doing anything in large quantities, so they're the ones that sort of oversee the association. And
so those guys aren't authorities. Like that's not
correct.
the Noreen, whatever. It's not the agricultural association. It's an informal group of just beekeepers, but that's by far the most important people to keep happy because
they have a map of everyone's bee locations, and so anytime that we want to expand, add new colonies, or add an entire new apiary location, we have to get approval from them. And what they do is they figure out on the map who our closest beekeeper neighbors are, where their hives are, the distance and the amount of colonies, and they'll just call them up, and basically we have to get our beekeeping neighbors' approval to do that. So everybody is in agreement where everyone else's hives are located. But that, as Evan said, is an unofficial capacity. Then the only official document that we have to submit is once a year. We submit a paper at City Hall, and that says how many hives we're keeping. But that's only for European honeybees?
No, that's for Japanese bees too.
Oh, it is? Okay. So what all does that document entail? It's just one page.
It just says the number of colonies and the location.
Okay.
And you have to say whether you're a commercial beekeeper or a hobbyist. And then if we were to transport bees across the prefecture line, we would have to get permission from the well, it would be a separate document, so we're not going to do that, which is a little bit of a headache for us because we are right on the prefecture line. But so if we wanted to have any apiaries on Ikuchijima, which is the island to our north, that would be, and since we're on the north side of Ōmishima, that would be the most convenient place for us to expand, and we're probably just not going to ever.
No,
because
we would never cross. Yeah, because as soon as you cross the bridge off Ōmishima in that direction, we're in Hiroshima Prefecture, so we don't want to be dealing with two different prefectural governments. So we'll stay in Ehime for sure.
Yeah.
Any questions sort of related to that before we move off? Let's see. Let's pop back to that first question. Did we answer all of hers?
The taxes, tax your home.
Oh, she also, yes, so Childless Cat Lady 25 also asked, how do you pay tax with your honey business? And that we've covered before. I don't actually know a lot of the details because we have hired a professional accountant. So we have a local accountant. He's one of the local professionals that we work with. He lives in Matsuyama, which is about a little over an hour from us. So most of our communication is over email. We use Google Drive to share documents. And once a month, we mail him a physical packet of receipts and bills, utility bills, invoices, that sort of thing. We've got a really good system in place, which he gets all the credit for. He's the professional. He set us up and said, here's what you do, here's what I need from you, and here are the records that you need to keep. And so he handles both our... Well, he helped us with the business incorporation, and he helped us with getting set up for the payroll requirement, which is part of the business manager visa requirement. And he got us enrolled in the pension system, and he handles our business tax and our personal tax. Because since we are a business, and one of the visa requirements is that the business pays Evan a salary, Evan also has to file personal Japanese tax as well. So our accountant handles all of that.
And how long did it take for us to get a harvest from our bees?
I'm gonna get him a treat. This is not going well. Sorry, Pomcon.
So we did get a harvest from our first year of keeping bees last year. So I've heard that you would not, but in our case we definitely did. You get a lot of honey from the citrus, and so that was our first harvest, and that was, let's see, we got our bees in March, and so March, April, May, June was the citrus harvest, so it took just 4 months to get our first harvest, and we would have gotten a later harvest too from that, about a month later, but we sort of didn't do a good job, so, but this year we will. So we'll be getting that too. So another harvest a couple months after that first one. Aussie in Japan tried to get honey through the Furusato Noze. So that's where you can direct. In Japan, they have a system where you can direct your tax money to a particular city, I think, right? And so, but it seemed to be imported. So that's. Yeah, that's dodgy.
Yeah, when we, one of the best things that our business consultant did for us is when we were writing our startup visa application for Imabari City, he came up with all kinds of really great statistics and numbers about honey in Japan. And what really shocked me is that less than 10% of Japan's honey consumed is actually produced in Japan. So over 90% of the honey eaten, purchased, and sold in Japan is imported from China and other countries. So, of course, the regulations are not as good there, you know, so in other countries, some other countries, so... I mean, even the U.S., like, if you can buy honey in the U.S. and it's just like sugar water. So there's definitely a need in Japan and, I mean, anywhere in the world for high-quality, actual pure honey. But it really shocked me that it was I don't remember the exact number, but it was a single digit.
Yeah, it was 9%, I guess, 10%.
It was under 10, yeah.
So,
it was a single digit of percentage of honey is manufactured in Japan.
Our local grocery store carries kilogram jars of honey for 600 yen, super cheap, but they're from China, so.
Yeah, and Prodigal Link says a lot of it's from New Zealand. I don't think I've actually seen New Zealand honey, but I think the...
Yeah, probably if you go to a more higher end, we're out in the boonies, so we just have a...
Yeah, maybe in the cities.
Yeah.
So Darren, you've got a thumbs up from Darren for the cherry hedges. Are you just able to go into the forest and plant, or do you need permission?
Well, it's being a good namer, you know, first and foremost. So, I mean, that's a difficult question to answer because you don't know. Because it's hard to locate the owners in so many of these cases, and a lot of them are just passed away. So it just depends on the individual location. And so our first bee yard that we have been working the longest, that's why it's called our first bee yard. The woman who is leasing that to us, I speak to her, you know, I ask her these questions, and, you know, she says, oh yeah, just do whatever you want. So there's a forest above it and there's a forest below it. And I say, hey, can I, and she just says, yeah, just do whatever you want. Just go up there and just do whatever you want. And I said, well, could I purchase that? And she said, oh, I don't know, you know, because there's all these issues with purchasing, you know, land like that in Japan. But yeah, anyway, you just, I mean, yeah.
We're not just going to do whatever we want, though, even though that's what the neighbors tell us. We're going to go through the correct avenues and make sure. So there is an order to things. I mean, some of the land that we have has been abandoned, you know, so long that people don't even remember the last time it was used for anything. But yes, you do. It involves, you know, talking to your neighbors, figuring out who owns the land, and then getting permission before you do anything, or purchasing or leasing the land first.
And our second bee yard has one neighbor that's really great, where they do citrus, and they also have miniature horses. And then the back part of it is all overgrown, former citrus turned into forest land, turned into jungle. And then right behind it is shrine land. And so I assume, you know, in Japanese shrines, they typically are on the top of a mountain, and so the slopes are planted and just kept, you know, natural. So I assume we could do stuff there. In terms of planting pollinator species, the issue there right now is that there's a tree that's dead and it's overhanging. It's a giant oak tree, and it's just died, and it's overhanging our colonies. So
yeah, and it's on not just someone's personal land; it's on shrine land. So we need to actually overdue. I mean, our neighbors are aware that the tree is dead too, but somebody, probably us, needs to go down to City Hall and see if we can get it taken care of before it falls. I want to answer real quick. Alex G says, by the way, do either of you know Japanese? Yes, Evan does. He minored in Japanese language in college, and last month, or a little more than a month ago, he just passed the JLPT N3, which he had never taken the JLPT before, even though he minored in Japanese. He chose the N3 because he wanted to see if he could pass it without studying. And he did, and so he'll be signing up for or just registered for the N2 later this year. So we're gonna do some studying for that. I do not speak Japanese, so I am learning little by little. I thought being immersed in Japanese would make learning the language a little bit easier, and that has not been the case because we've been here over 2 years, and we are just working ourselves pretty much every day, and I have not made time or have the mental capacity to study, but I am making that a priority. Just about a month ago, I was given a recommendation for a new language studying program that I like really well, so now it's just a matter of making time for it. So yes, and Evan's Japanese is well enough that one of the services that we offer is a real estate and consulting translation services. So really, it's Evan's language abilities that's made a lot of this possible for us. I wouldn't have been able to do this on my own. And then Alex has some other questions while we're answering that one. What are the prices of bee colonies in your area? I bought mine for 30,000 yen per family on 3 frames. Thought it made sense to start breeding bees for sale at these prices. You can talk about that for a sec.
Yeah, we bought our bees from our mentor, and he's not really set up to be selling lots of colonies. So he charges us 6,000 yen per frame per colony. So we're purchasing
We're buying 3 frame colonies?
3 frame colonies, so that works out to 18,000 yen. But he doesn't have a lot that he can. We're basically buying him out this year.
Well, he buying out his extra colonies.
Yeah,
So
he doesn't.
He handles over 100 colonies, and we're purchasing 18 from him this year.
So he's not like producing nukes for sale. And so you're saying it thinks it makes sense to start breeding bees. Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's Mamuro Yoho that we bought from, and Akitaya Yoho. I think they do sell. They're just online stores that you can. I think they sell nukes, but yeah, there's something like that. And it does seem like just the infrastructure for beekeeping in Japan is not as built up as it is in some other countries. So absolutely, that's a big opportunity, a big business opportunity for anyone to get into there. Yeah.
And Toaster's best friend says, thanks for your answer to all my questions. Hello to you. Thanks for joining us. Darren says he got the same answer here in regards to nobody knows who owns a lot of the forest land around him.
Yeah, Darren. And then, it's not just going into the forest and planting whatever I want. It's the fact that the forest is encroaching on our property because no one's taking care of it. And that's what I'm saying. All of this land is blighted, and it's creating habitat for wild boar and for wild dogs and for the freaking murder hornets.
For the giant Asian hornet. Yeah.
And so it's not just like I want to go out and turn it into a park or something like that. It's just the fact that it needs to be maintained or it's causing problems for everyone on the island. So yeah, and it is, but it's frustrating. And what I'm trying to do is just give people a reason to maintain it, essentially. And yeah.
Yep. And Prodigal Inc. asks, could we have the JLPT as a stream topic one day? Would be good to hear about learning Japanese, struggles, etc. We could definitely do that. Yeah, thanks for the suggestion. We're always looking for monthly topics, even though, any questions are always welcome. Because whoever's here, if you have questions, regardless of the topic. But I do like sort of just having a monthly thing to talk about when we run out of questions, or as a way to fill time and keep things interesting. So actually right now we don't have any current questions coming in. I think we've answered all the questions so far. So we could jump back to what we're doing over the next month. We've got a lot of things to look forward to. So one of these I just mentioned. So Evan registered for the JLPT N2 level. That won't happen for...
It's July.
It's in July, and then it'll be another 3 months before you even get the test results.
Yeah, and I'm not confident about the JLPT 2. I hear there's a big jump between the JLPT 3 and 2, and I just don't have time to study, so I'm just going to kind of wing it. I've been reading Japanese posts on...
We're going to get you some time to study. We're going to figure out how to do that. Yeah, we can... I think they have... Don't they have specific workbooks for studying for the specific levels?
Yeah, they do. But...
Yeah, we can definitely... We'll get you. I have full confidence. Let's see. We are still waiting on... 2 big things that we've been waiting on for a very long time. We've been working for a small business subsidy. That application is actually going to go in soon. I think we have another meeting about it in a week or 2. So we're waiting on a small business subsidy combined with a small bank loan. And both of those things are going to allow us to do a little bit of expansion. So the plan is... as you know, for the guest house garage to turn into our retro shop. It's going to be like an omiyage farm stand with vintage items as well. So we'll expand selling our honey there as well, which is great because then we won't have the Michinoaki Farmers Market fees if we're selling directly from our own shop. And then that'll also give us an opportunity to connect with more of the local businesses. There's a lot of great little artisans on this island that you'll see their items in many of the restaurants and stores. Everybody sort of connects, and that'll give us an opportunity to connect and help carry their items as well. So it'll be just sort of a one-stop, grab your honey, get some veggies, pick up some local cute artist, Shimanami Kaido, actual local artist made, postcards and cute things that the artists here make. Omiyage. And as well as your vintage items that were found and restored from our own Akiyas. So we're waiting on the subsidy application and the bank loan for that. We're hoping that's going to be something we can work on before summer arrives.
And I want to have a vending machine with craft beer from Shikoku.
Yes. So we are in the market for a retro vending machine. That's one of the things we're looking for is... It's gotta be the right aesthetic, so it might take us a while to find it, but we want a retro-looking vending machine, and Evan's going to fill it with local craft beer. And you told our island brewery your plan the other day, and how did they respond?
They said, heck yeah, I'd come buy beer from your vending machine.
Yep. Let's see. Sakura honey, that is our big thing. We can talk about that next. You can go ahead and talk about that. More honeybee woodwork. So we're always thinking, we realized, all of this takes time, so we're trying our best to think, one or two steps ahead. So the next big thing with bees is that we'll be doing hive splits. So we're increasing to 25 hives now. And then prior to the time hornet season starts this year, we're going to be splitting and potentially doubling our hives again. So that means, working backwards, Evan's got to build those boxes. We have to have new stands in place for the hives before that happens. We have to have new hornet traps for the hives. So there's a lot of woodworking going on for the next future expansions, even though we have not, we're receiving our 25 hives now. It's a lot of planning and growing and making sure we have things in place and ready before the growth happens. And of course, we're just going to be very busy the next few months with the guest house, as I already mentioned. One very exciting thing that we have not announced anywhere yet: empanadas.
Yeah, Danny's finally going to let me sell some food. I actually have worked in restaurants for a good part of my life, so I've been trying to figure out a way that we can... All right. Thanks, Darren.
Thank you, Darren. Darren sent us a super chat for a celebratory beer on passing JLPT.
Yeah, and Darren knows how much craft beer costs in Japan, so... Appreciate that.
Thank you, Darren.
Yeah, so there's a lot of, I've been wanting to do a kind of a food cart. They call them a kishin car in Japanese. But I've been wanting to do something like that for a while, and we're gonna finally get our toes wet at the Sando Market is called on
Children's Day
on May 3rd, mm-hmm. and we're just gonna be selling empanadas because I thought it would be easy, and we're gonna have our friend Lawrence source us with the masa from the military base there in Kure.
Lawrence is Coco Lencho Japan, if you're not familiar with his channel. He's become a good friend of ours. Him and his wife Chiyoko are just super nice folks, and he's got a great YouTube channel, and they've come and visited us a few times. And last Thanksgiving, they have access to the American military base grocery store in Hiroshima, so they surprised us with a turkey and some fixins to make stuffing and fresh cranberries, which was incredible. And he also surprised us with some chilies and masa, which Evan is now using. He made his first test batch of empanadas last week. They turned out really great. And so Lawrence is going to help us get some more masa before our festival.
Yeah, so that should be a good little boost to our income too. And then we're just gonna put out. We'll have a honey. We'll have
Well, yeah, hopefully we're
honey
going to
by
have
then.
sakura honey by then. So we'll have empanadas, horchata for drinking, sakura honey, and then I might bring just a few retro items just to sort of show a small sampling of what Benton Homestead is all about. So it's going to be really fun. Wayne and Stacy were here last year visiting during the Children's Day Festival. I don't think their trip dates are going to work out this year, so we'll take plenty of pictures for you, Wayne and Stacy, and we'll remember how nice it was to go visit it last year. Although you didn't get to go last year. That was just me and Wayne and Stacy. It was a big crowd. There was a lot of people out, so it'll be a good opportunity for us to meet even more people in the community. Even though we're on a small island, there is 6,000 people here, so it's not like we know everybody yet. So it'll be a good opportunity to meet people and share some empanadas and horchata and make some connections. The other thing that I would like to do that is like, I mean, it seems like such a low priority, but I'm just really excited about painting a mural on the outside of our honeybee workshop. I wanted to do it, it's a cinder block structure on the outside, so it's just, it looks like just a cement wall. It's kind of a funny shaped building, and I've just always pictured it as having, a Shimanami Kaido themed mural painted on the outside. So Evan's going to talk to our contractor next week. I've been working on layout plans and color palette for a long time, and our contractor is a painter, and so he keeps telling us every time he comes over and sees us painting the bee boxes and I've got store-bought paint, he's like, no, don't do that. I'll mix the paint for you. So I've got to put together a final design for the mural and then get a list of colors that we need from him. And then I'm just going to really slowly work on it in my spare time that doesn't exist. But, if the garage construction for the retro shop can't happen immediately, maybe I can get the mural done in the time being. So I sort of want that to be my spring-summer project. Ōmishima needs another beautiful Shimanami Kaido themed mural. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be great. I'm fine-tuning the plan. So it's going to be some sort of sunset colors with just an island setting, and then I want to have just a cute outline of a bicycle. Keep the biking and the island bridge theme going with some pretty sunset colors.
And look at this. I just picked a bristle out of my pants that came from the wire brush that I used to clean the tub. So
if you watched our tub video, you know that his the wire brush exploded and sent bristles everywhere, and we're still finding them. It's been 6 weeks now.
Like an angle grinder wire brush that I used to scour off the old paint.
Yep, you worked that wire brush to death. All right, so that's what's coming up next.
We've got some more questions here.
We do? Okay.
Yep. So, Jakob, you asked this question a few minutes ago. Sorry if the question is a bit off topic, but did we have any experience with real estate management before coming to Japan? And yeah, we had a pretty similar business to what we're running now, where we had an urban farm and a Airbnb in New Orleans, Louisiana for
5 years.
5 years before we came here. So.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's where we learned farming. We were not farmers before. In New Orleans, we started a small urban farm and slowly worked our way up. Evan started with gardening, and then we got chickens, and then we got bees, and at one point we were making most of the vegetables that we were eating. So we were growing a lot of our own food and just sort of learning as we went and watching YouTube channels and reading books, and we basically taught ourselves how to farm there. how to get the most out of a small piece of land. We had a 1/4-acre urban farm in New Orleans city limits, and our house was a duplex, as is very common in New Orleans. It was called a double shotgun house. So you have one long skinny house sandwiched right next to another long skinny house. And so one side we rented out on Airbnb. We turned it into a little place, and we really lucked out there because, we chose to live in the lower Ninth Ward, which is the neighborhood in New Orleans that was most devastated during Hurricane Katrina, and we moved there 10 years later, and it was just still a very wild situation in that neighborhood. So that's where a lot of people had started moving there and building their own small farms because there were so many vacant lots available in the area. So that's part of the reason that we chose that area. And then we got lucky with the Airbnb because we had a fully fenced, just beautiful backyard garden. And almost 100% of our Airbnb guests brought their dogs. So that's where we learned about hosting, how to be a good host. And we really enjoyed, hosting people, and especially their dogs, which is unfortunate that we can't have dogs here because our house is just not designed for it. And also the island has 2 other rentals that are specifically catering to dogs, so there's not a need for that here. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Padre de la Verde just joining from Eugene, Oregon, my alma mater.
All right. Nice.
Also a beekeeper. Yeah, you're welcome anytime.
Yeah, we're from Dallas, Oregon, if you're familiar, which is close to Salem. And Evan went to college in Eugene.
The best pizza in Eugene is in Veneta.
That's true. Yeah. I like the Wow Hall. I would go to Eugene to go to the Wow Hall quite a bit.
Okay, Alex G has a question about visas, so it's for you.
Okay, so do I understand correctly that you received your visa as startups? Are these 1-year visas? How do you feel? Was it easy? That's a lot. That's a lot to answer. I'll try and do it as quickly as possible because we've had a couple full live streams and long videos just about the visas, which you can go back and check out. Got a long blog also that I wrote out step by step the entire startup visa process. The reason that question is a bit complicated is a couple reasons. So the startup visa is currently changing. So the startup visa that we received is a program that is being phased out, and it's currently, over the course of the year 2025, being replaced by a new startup visa program. And all of the details for the new program have not quite yet been announced, even though it's in the transition process. So I can only speak about our experience, which is a program that's being phased out. We started with, yes, the startup visa. It was a 6-month visa, not a 1-year visa to start with. So, Salem, Oregon, shout out. We got some locals here.
Yeah. Padre, that was a joke. I'm sorry. I graduated college like 20 years ago, so.
The pizza place was a joke?
It was a TV commercial or a radio commercial. The best pizza in Eugene is in Veneta. That was their slogan. So.
You don't remember the name of it?
No, Veneta's not a big place though. I'm sure if it's still around.
I've been to Veneta once. It was also for a concert. I would go to Eugene and Veneta only for concerts. Salem, Oregon, shout out. Nice. We got some Oregonians here. That's fun. Okay, back to the startup visa. Yes. So at the time we received it, the first step is to get the startup visa from the municipality or the prefecture that offers it. For us, that was a 6-month visa, meaning we had 6 months to open our bank account, incorporate our business, get all the paperwork done, renovate our guest house, get our first rental license, get the guest house listed, and host our first guests, all within 6 months. It was insane. But but we did it. So it was wild, but it was not impossible. And then after these 6 months, if you are able to accomplish everything during that time frame, then we transitioned from that to the 1-year business manager visa. And since then, we've received a second 1-year business manager visa extension. This December, we're hoping to get longer than 1 year at our next visa renewal. So we're really, really, really hoping, if we work very, very hard this year with our guest house and our honeybee business, since the visa extension relies almost completely on the success of our business, they want to see income, and they want to see that we earn more than we spend. So as far as the business goes, so our visa extension every year, or 3 years hopefully, or 5 years, is dependent on the success of our business. So it starts with the startup, and then we transition to the business manager. There is a way to go directly to the business manager, but we don't have any personal experience with that. And from what I understand, talking to our immigration lawyer, if you go directly for business manager, then you only have 4 months instead of the 6 months. So it seems like it would be a little bit more difficult, but we only like to speak about what we personally have experience with, so we're not giving any information that could be inaccurate. Also, the new startup visa, I mentioned that the details haven't quite been announced yet. What we think, based on some documents that I've read, there's a lot of news articles that seem to have some potentially incorrect information out there, because they don't line up with what I've read from the official startup visa websites. So go check out that video. I made a whole video laying everything out, including links to websites. The biggest changes with the new startup visa is, one, that it will eventually be nationwide, and two, they're saying that it is, one of the unclear points is that it says renewable for up to 2 years. So it's possible that it's going to be 6 months that's renewable up to 2 years, or it could be a 2-year visa. It's very unclear, but that's going to be, both of those changes are huge, and the time period change especially would have made our lives a heck of a lot easier. So we've put out a lot of content about the startup visa, so feel free to go back and watch those and read the blog, and then watch the I made the video about the new 2025 startup visa changes, so that'll probably answer a lot of your questions. And Stacy says about my mural, could people stand in front of the mural for a tourist photo? People love that. People as in me. Yes, that's exactly the plan. Yes, I would like a place that people come and take pictures, and it's not going to be advertising for our honeybee workshop. It'll be on the outside of our honeybee workshop, though. So there will be a place that is adorable for people to take pictures, and then the other side is going to say honeybee workshop, and I'll probably have Hani the honeybee painted out there. So I just want it to be adorable. We have, in the future, our neighborhood is going to have Ōmishima's second winery, our retro shop in the future, and then also Bosco's drinking my remaining cold coffee. Get that away from Bosco. Does not need caffeine. And our neighborhood is also possibly going to be getting a new coffee shop. So things are growing, and as we get new people going to these new businesses, as they pass by our mural, of course, it would be wonderful if they would take their picture in front of it. What other new questions do we have?
Stacey wants to know how many empanadas we're going to make. I think 200 or 300.
Oh, the number's increasing. Before it was 1 to 200. Yeah,
I'd like to make 50,000 yen at the minimum. So, and I'm thinking I'm selling them for.
Yeah, we haven't figured it out yet, but what do you think?
500 yen for something like that big. We'll see.
Yeah.
We have to figure that out. We're going to talk to some other business owners and see what's a fair price and all. Yeah. Considering we're growing the the salsa ingredients ourselves and whatnot.
Yeah, we've got our
but
takoyaki boats, so it'll be empanadas sold in takoyaki boats. And Evan says everything can be made and portioned out ahead of time, so we're gonna have a red sauce and a green sauce, right? And
Yeah.
so we need little portion cups. We'll have those in a cooler ready to go, and then the horchata as well. And the empanadas will be made ahead of time. He's doing a test right now to find out if we can make them ahead of time and freeze them and then still have them fry up deliciously. So we'll see, but I'm hesitant to do this kind of thing, but the empanadas were so delicious, combined with the fact that it can all be prepared ahead of time, that I'm feeling cautiously optimistic that this will be a fun event and just sort of a way to get our foot in the door here and get some of these, get a food event under our belt. I've done a lot of farmers markets and art fair events and that sort of thing in the past, and was involved in not just being there but also like running the event. So I like events like this. I know how much work goes into those on the back end, but I love being involved in them and just being in a booth like that and talking to people and the connections that you can make. So I am really excited about it. Plus the empanadas are going to be fantastic. Kong says, have you guys had any bad experience with the locals? No, we haven't. You read online and you hear about other people who sometimes have bad experiences with the locals, but we haven't. And that's not just because, I like to keep our content positive and keep a positive outlook on things, but we've only had good experiences with the local people here. We've been welcomed. They help us make connections. They help us garden. They invite us to garden with them, and I don't know. I don't know how to explain how welcomed we feel here. I feel like we have a closer relationship with more of our neighbors here than I've had anywhere else that we've lived. So yes, we've only had good experiences with the local people.
There's the local dogs, on the other hand.
Yeah.
Well, Padre de la Verde seems like a cool dude. You should come out. So, what if we doubled our operation? We are we're trying to double our operation every year. We started with 9 colonies last year. We're getting 25 to start this year, and then so we're shooting for 50 for the beginning of next year. And I'm also planning to. I just purchased the wood to build 6 additional colonies that I'm going to set out, because I'm thinking that our bees here are just super swarmy, and I'm thinking I'll be able to fill those with swarms just by setting them out. So I'm doing that, and so
Padre de la Verde, you should go check out our video called Honeybee Vacuum. That's probably my favorite video that we've ever made. We actually we saved 2 beehives that they were European bees, and they had swarmed and made colonies in places that they shouldn't. One of them was an abandoned house, and one of them was an occupied house. And we saved 2 colonies in one day. And in the middle of the operation, Evan had to go put together an emergency honeybee vacuum because they had moved to a different part of the house. Anyways, I would say that's my favorite video that we've ever made. Go check that out for sure. You made your own bee vac too. That's incredible.
Buds?
Yep, we've got a lot in common. Did we just become best friends? Well, thanks. Thanks for all your comments. You're looking to do hempcrete building while I'm there to preserve historic housing from termite and degradation problems. Interesting.
Well, we've got a couple of walls on our garage that need to be rebuilt, and it's not it's not hempcrete specifically, but it's basically adobe, and so we're going to be rebuilding those. I think we're trying to get Wayne and Stacy when they come to help us with that, but yeah, I think that's probably right up your alley.
Yep, come check it out. Feel
Yeah.
free. In the future, we hope to. So, if you're new to our channel, we have this entire house. This is our house, not the guest house, and this house will need at some point to be completely remodeled. We're living in a unremodeled, essentially still abandoned house. We don't have hot water yet, hopefully soon. But at some point, we would really like to host workshops to we learned from the guest house renovation and maybe bring in some professionals and some other craftsmen. And at that time, we'd really like to, eventually the long-term goal is to be able to exchange a place to stay for some work. Not indefinitely, sort of like work away or like woofing, but for while we're remodeling this house, and then also potentially for the honeybee yard as well. And at that time, we would like to be able to offer the guest house for people to stay. Unfortunately, we can't, our hands are a little tied right now. We have to earn an income to show the government that we're earning an income. So we can't be as generous as we would like to be with the guest house and offering that for exchange, because a trade does not show on paper that we have a viable business. But in the future, once we have a 3 or a 5 year visa, then we'll have some more flexibility. Or, in our 5 year plan is to have a second guest house in the neighborhood. So once we're in a more of a comfortable and stable position, then we can be more flexible and generous like we would like to, as far as hosting people in exchange for other things and doing sort of work trades and that sort of thing. Kong says, thanks for answering and doing these live streams. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us. And Padre de la Verde says, if you have a timeline, I could try and make schedules line up. Yeah, just get in touch with us. Let us know, when you'll be traveling, and we have.
I guess I'll let him out.
Let him out.
Bosco's asked. He's using his button, so I have to let him outside the potty.
Good job, Bosco. Go potty.
Come on, buddy.
You pushed the potty button, so go potty.
False alarm.
He just wanted your spot. That sounds like a great plan. Perhaps if things go well, I could work out a house that I can stay in about 6 months, and you can rent out the other 6 if I'm nearby, as well as doubling honey with another yard. Yeah, I mean we've got a lot of plans in the works, so yeah, just get in touch and we can communicate from there. But like I said, we don't really have anything to trade at this time, because the guest house, we're not able to use that as an exchange for work in the current time, but in the future, something like that might be possible on a shorter scale. We're not thinking 6 months, but on a shorter scale, if somebody wants to come stay for a couple of weeks and help out, we could work out some sort of trade. But we're not set up for that yet. That's more of our long-term plan. But I'm really happy that you joined us today, and we've got a lot of things in common, so definitely we'll be interested in keeping in touch in the future for sure. So let us know what your plans are as well. So we are at 9:30 right now. We've got 30 minutes. Some months we go a little bit over, and this month we will have to stop right at 10, because I mentioned earlier we're getting 6 of our 18 new honeybee colonies today. Evan's gonna run right after the live stream ends and go meet our honeybee mentor and get those guys set up, as well as doing the Sakura honey check today. So why don't you take this time to talk about the sakura honey process? Why is it complicated? Why is cherry blossom honey a little bit rare? And what are our plans with cherry blossom honey for the year?
Well, so we are feeding our bees sugar to get their numbers up, and again, because of the nature of the ecosystem here not being super suitable for bees, and the risk is that they're gonna mix that sugar water with the sakura honey, and it's gonna be, it's not gonna be pure sakura honey.
We were feeding the bees sugar over the winter.
Yeah, we fed them. I've been feeding them. Yeah, in the early spring buildup, I've also been feeding them sugar. So anytime there's not something for them to go out and eat, you're supplementing their diet basically. And so when the sakura blooms, you have to pull those frames, and you also have to empty the feeders so that they're not able to get any of that. And so I just did that, and I put in some new frames that were empty. And so that's about all you're doing. But you also want to slowly increase the number of frames that are available to them to be filling with honey. So that's just something. So every couple of days, I'm going out and just monitoring those. I just did that 2 days ago. I just switched over to the Sakura Harvest frames 2 days ago. So this is going to be the first time that I'm checking. And at that time, I think there were 2 colonies that did have some Sakura honey. I tasted it. Tasted nice.
Yep. Yeah, so the trick is that they're still sort of waking up from the winter because the cherry blossoms bloom so early in the year. So Evan was feeding them sugar over the winter and then the early spring, and that helps them maintain and start increasing their numbers. But then also, we went out, was it about a month ago you started feeding them pollen?
Yeah, I have to check my notes, but yeah.
So then he started feeding them pollen patties in addition to the sugar, and what that does is it gives them a boost that gives them the protein and the food that they need to start laying eggs and getting some new spring bees going, get their numbers increasing. So basically you have to think, at least a month ahead of the cherry blossoms. You got to start feeding them the pollen patties, waking them up, letting them know springtime's here. They got to get ready. They got to get their army ready because the day before the cherry blossoms bloom, so we had to time it exactly correct, and Evan got the timing perfect. So excited. It's still not guaranteed, but we're feeling very optimistic. So then the day before those little cherry blossom buds were about to open on the trees, we went out and we pulled any frame that they had stored sugar water in, and then we also pulled the sugar water so they're not, putting any sugar water in any frame that we're going to harvest the sakura honey from, so we don't mix that. So we pulled all their sugar water, we pulled any frames that could potentially have sugar water in it, and then replace them with empty frames for them to fill with sakura honey. And I think it's gonna be great. I'm really excited. It's something that we thought that we would test this year, but not something that we thought we'd actually be able to achieve this year. So even if we just get a small batch harvested that tastes like delicate cherry blossoms, I think that's just going to be a huge, I guess just confidence boost, to know that we were able to do that. The citrus blossom honey, we can harvest that about 6 months out of the year. So that's our main honey is going to be citrus, but just getting this cherry blossom honey is getting the timing right. It's very exciting. We're considering, because it's a small batch and challenging to produce, we've been having some discussions amongst ourselves and some friends and trying to figure out, what do we keep it as the same price as the citrus blossom honey, or do we increase the price a little bit because it's special and such a small batch? So we're still figuring that detail out. But the bloom only lasts for 2 weeks or less, so we should be if we've done it correctly, we should be harvesting and then getting it out in stores by the end of April.
And did we read this comment? Kong wants to open a bakery in Ōmishima.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Do it. Yeah.
Yes.
That sounds great.
We love Ōmishima. That's awesome.
You should open it on Ōmishima, though.
A bakery? Well, there's already... Well, I mean, I'm sure there's more... There's always room for bakeries. That's fabulous. Ōmishima has a bakery that is really, really great. And they are only open 2 or 3 days a week, and there's just always the line out the door. They sell out every day. But Ōmishima is fabulous. We love going to Ōmishima. If we have to go off island for supplies, we usually go north to Ōmishima instead of going south to Imabari. Just a personal choice. It's just a... I mean, you obviously must love Ōmishima too if you're considering opening a bakery there. That's awesome. Will you be going for the startup visa that's offered in Ōmishima for that, or what are your plans? Let us know.
Yeah, send us an email. We want to hear more about that because local businesses are, we're always trying to support.
I love connecting people, and so many people just reach out to me, and it's if we can help connect you with someone in the area, let us know. That would be fantastic. If you want to send an email, that would be fine. Otherwise, just let us know in the chat. We can keep this conversation going here. Prodigal Inc. loves Ōmishima too. Everybody loves Ōmishima. Who doesn't love Ōmishima?
On the Sakura honey, Sakura, the cherry blossom season is a big tourism draw here in Japan, and one of the really cool things is that it's not just the streets, being planted or the parks being planted, but in the cherry blossom trees. But we look up into the mountains here, the hillsides, and they are just almost solid pink. So I think that it's they were planted originally, in people's houses, people's yards and things, and they've escaped. The birds have planted them up into the woods. So there is a lot more cherry blossoms than you think, even from just like looking at them on the internet and things like that. And it's also interesting just from a honey perspective. We have a real different perspective, I think, on the cherry blossoms. But there's a big seasonal. Well, so one thing is that the trees, the nectar producing trees and things, they use the humidity, the water in the air to make the honey, and so that's something that the trees depend on. That's going to influence the amount of honey you're going to get. And so one of the things that people get bummed out by during cherry blossom season is oftentimes there's going to be a big rain that's going to wash all the petals away. But for us, that's a good thing because it actually makes the trees produce more nectar. So. Oh, really? Yeah. Oh. Yeah, and then one thing is I'm planting seedlings, and most of what you see along the roads and such are cultivars, so they're all clones. And so that's partly what gives them such a showy display, is that they're all going to bloom at the same time because they're all technically the same tree. But that means that the bloom time is much shorter. So by planting basically wild seedlings, I'm going to be extending out the bloom time, and it's going to be better for our bees. So
that's what's so cool about the citrus on the island, is that Ōmishima has like 100 different varieties of citrus that it grows, and they all bloom at slightly different times. So even though each tree only blooms for a short period, when you combine all the different varieties of citrus and all their different bloom times, it expands it out. So there's like, is it 6 months?
No. It's like 6 weeks, maybe.
The whole island?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a lot longer than that, Evie.
No. Kumquats bloom a lot longer, but everything else. Yeah, so Kong's hoping to get the startup visa and the business manager visa, so.
Food. Nice.
Yeah, let us know what we can do to help.
Nice, that's great. And now the startup visa up there, I can't remember if it's offered through Onomichi City or is it through Hiroshima Prefecture. which would be interesting because our startup visa was through Imabari City. So that was really helpful to have the startup visa team that was helping us was really close. It was only, we're on an island, so we had to drive to Imabari City Hall.
The starter visa right now is offered by Hiroshima Prefecture.
Is it? Okay. All right. Well, good luck with that. That's awesome. What part of the stage are you in? Are you still revising your business plan? Have you reached out to the startup visa office yet? He says, I've been a pastry chef for about 10 years and now want to do some sort of American-style bakery, pies, cheesecake, cookies, etc., and would love to incorporate some mikan into some products. Nice. That sounds great. Everybody in the area loves citrus, lemon-themed things. It seems to go really well. That's what you want when you come to the Shimanami Kaido. You want citrus-flavored things. I don't know if you guys can see on the video, but Ponkon's been in my lap the whole time.
Just woke up.
He just got woken up by Bosco. Stacy says, does buying entire purple cheesecakes at Ubeke in Onamichi count as supporting local businesses? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you guys are great supporting local businesses.
And it looks like you got a new customer there, Kong.
Yes. Yeah. Kong, we'll connect you to Stacy here when they're when they come visit on Ōmishima, and who knows, maybe someday they'll be here more long term. They're great friends to have, and they're great at making a point to support local businesses and restaurants and that sort of thing. So we're making connections already.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about some. So let's see. So
Kong says, I'm just in the research phase, maybe in a year or two. Currently live in Australia and want to finish applying for citizenship before I take the first step. Also just started studying Japanese. Well, good luck. It's great you're starting early and, doing your research and getting all your planning prepared. So that's fabulous. It's a complicated process. So the more preparation time you have ahead of time, the better. So it sounds like you're going into things the right way.
So I wanted to talk about something that's current events in the United States that not everyone is aware of yet, and that is that the entire beekeeping industry in the United States has collapsed. And I don't think it's really hit the mainstream press yet. So I've just heard about it from watching, university ag extension videos on YouTube and other beekeeping videos on YouTube. But so basically, the big beekeepers in the United States make most of their money from offering pollination services, and almonds is the big crop. And so just like with the cherry blossoms, almonds are an early crop that they need to start feeding very early to get the numbers up so that the bees can go out and do their job. So when the farmers, the beekeepers, started to look into their bees and get them ready for that pollination, they found 50 to 70% losses, meaning 50 to 70% of their colonies were just full of dead bees.
Now you're talking just this spring.
Just this spring. This is current. And so what happened is the last year was bad. The numbers were bad all through last year. And then just in early February, when they just started to get the bees coming out of their winter slumber, they found massive casualties. And there's not any real theory as to what is going on there. They're just saying it's varroa mite is the only thing. They're saying that the regular treatments for varroa mite for some reason did not work this year. And so as a result, the last number I saw was $140 million in damage to the American beekeeping industry. And I'm sure that number is going to increase. So this is similar to what was called colony collapse disorder back in 2008, where it was a mysterious death of all the bees. And this is happening again, and nobody knows no one knows why, and it's extremely terrifying. And the upshot of this is that something like 40% of the beekeepers are probably going to go bankrupt this year. And also, the almond growers are going to go bankrupt because they're not going to get an almond crop in a lot of places because the bees aren't going to be there to pollinate their almond trees. So we're going to see massive knock-on effects in the American agriculture, and we'll just have to see. So buy your almonds now. Basically, those prices are gonna go through the roof. The acids used weaken the skeleton for, like, what do you mean by acids? Like pesticides or something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely a problem. It's a huge problem. Pesticide use in Japan is off the charts. I don't remember the exact statistic, so definitely, don't quote me on this. I don't remember if it was per capita or whatever, but
Japan has the highest residual pesticides in consumer produce at the grocery store.
yeah, yeah. We see now it's interesting where we live. We get a really hopeful look at Japan's future of farming where we live. We've got a lot of very elderly farmers on the island, as a lot of rural Japan. But we also have a lot of young farmers who are moving specifically to this area to farm, coming from Tokyo, Osaka, lots of big cities. They're giving up the city life and they want to come here and farm. And the young farmers, more often than not, are coming here to be natural farmers and not use the pesticides and all the things that are mandated by Japan Ag. So it's really it's cool to see, and it makes us hopeful that Japan in the future might be using significantly less pesticides if more of the younger farmers are having the natural farming mindset. So that is really interesting and hopeful for us as beekeepers.
And a problem there is that we do have the JA and the Michino Eki as really good venues for selling our products, but we can't buy organic produce at the grocery store or at Michino Eki. I mean, a lot of the stuff does say no pesticides used at the Michino Eki, but the prices that they're selling for is so low that it's just not.
I think you said that wrong. You said we can't buy.
Well, both. No, I said both. We can't buy organic produce, and except for at the Michino Eki, but it's not certified organic. That's what I'm saying. The farmers saying they're not using, which doesn't really matter to me. But long story short, what I'm trying to say is there's no infrastructure where we're at for distributing organic produce or for natural produce. So the reason I wanted to say that though is just because I can't remember the guy's name, but in Osaka, Alex in Osaka, who is talking about breeding honeybees for sale, and this is just something that would be really great in Japan if we could build out the whole infrastructure for this natural organic farming. So I just want to always throw that out there for ideas for a need that is you could fill.
And Padre de la Verde, yeah, treatment free but not stupid. And also what you're saying about bees needing more warmth. Yeah, we're definitely looking into that too. We are in a mild winter climate, but we're still insulating our hives. And I don't know, there's that study that came out recently that says beekeepers are letting their bees get too cold and they're not supposed to do some of the behaviors that they exhibit over the winter that a lot of people thought was normal. And so we're definitely working on keeping our hives as warm as possible during the winter and as cool as possible during the summer. What was it that we hope someday to get that about the bees with the audio able to listen to the hives?
Yeah, there's a couple different products out now where they're using machine learning they put a microphone inside the hive, and then they're using machine learning to detect what to learn about what the hive is doing, learn about the hive, the bees' behavior from the sounds that they're making. So you can tell when they're about to swarm. You can tell when they're bringing in lots of honey or pollen, and you can tell when they're making lots of babies, and you can tell when their behavior is starting to decrease in the winter. Right now, those systems are super expensive, but it's coming down every day, and there's some open source, at least one open source system that I'm looking at incorporating.
So someday we'd love to get into things like that. And if you're not familiar, our long-term plan is also to get into horizontal hives. Evan's been researching that for years. So right now we're using the Langstroth hives that are available in Japan, which is a little bit of a different design than the Langstroth hive boxes in the US. That's what we're using to get started, because we could purchase the kits the first year, and then Evan copied the design and hand built our hives the second year. But by year 3 or 4, we're hoping to incorporate horizontal hives here for many reasons. But bee health and keeping on top of all of the, just because something's been done this way for generations does not mean it's the best way for the bees. So that's something we're very, very passionate about, is making things better, even if it's not, the traditional way in everything that's been done. Yeah, he's sharing some names of...
Big fan of Dr. Leo Sharashkin. I hope to purchase his books soon.
Oh, Meg made it. Hello. Nice to see you here on our chat.
And then John wanted to ask about making mead. We have not... We're all about the value-added product here on Benton Homestead, so that's something that I'm definitely considering. An interesting...
Or if we don't make it, we're very interested in partnering with somebody who does make it. So Japan especially loves to do the collaborations. So we were just talking with a burger place yesterday about possibly doing Mexican flavored burgers. So Evan has brewed beer before. We've got so many things in the works, though, that we could do beer or mead as a hobby, and cherry blossom honey flavored mead does sound fantastic. But we would be, I think, probably more interested in providing honey or providing peppers or providing the ingredients for other people to take those and make their own products with them. Would you agree?
No.
No? Okay.
I was when I was reading or watching those videos about the colony collapse that's going on right now in North America, they had some numbers about what constitutes a professional beekeeper in the United States, and I think 600 colonies was what they said. 600 to 1,000 colonies was the threshold for a professional beekeeper, and then so like 100 to 300 was like a sideline. Oh, we're back. That's what we were. So we're sideliners from an American perspective, but the biggest beekeepers on our island are around 130 to 150 colonies. So that's sort of what we are. That's the best we can. Really. We're not going to go above that. We're spending a lot more time per colony for taking care of our bees and things like that. But one of the things that the guy that I was watching that mentioned, was saying that he knows some beekeepers who are, making a comfortable living at those lower production levels, and one of the guys that he mentioned was making mead from his honey. So yeah, I'm not seriously considering that, but that might be something we think about doing in the future. An interesting thing about mead is that in comparison to other value-added products, mead takes up more volume than honey, and it has a shorter shelf life than honey. So when you get honey right out of wherever it comes from, right out of the bee, it's like they say, they found stuff from Egypt that's like thousands of years old. It never goes bad. But mead, on the other hand, is sensitive to to a lot more stuff than honey. So there's other. It's not the same as like taking peppers and turning them into hot sauce.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Stacy and Wayne. She says today's Family Mart Fund with a super chat. Have a great island day. Thanks for joining us. We're going to have a busy day today because right after this, 10 minutes, when we're done here with the live stream, Evan's going to go collect our brand new bees that will be waiting for us on the other side of the island and delivering them. And then I will be, while he's getting the new bees in place, I won't be able to help with that because I'll be cleaning the guest house and then meeting our next guests. And our next guests tonight want to visit with us because they are Japanese realtor. So he's visiting the island and he wants to meet with us and talk about real estate in Japan from a foreigner's perspective. So Evan will be doing bees, I'll be cleaning, and then we've got a meeting with a guest tonight. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Stacy. We might need a quick Family Mart lunch, and that will definitely cover it. So
Yeah, thank you very much.
oh, and Meg, thank you so much. Super chat from Meg as well. Happy to give a super chat to some of my favorite creators. Well, thank you. Your comments are always some of my favorite on our videos. I'm always look forward to what you have to say. So, and Meg, you gave us the idea for one of my favorite recent videos showing all of our favorite retro sounds and items in the house. So Meg, you get credit for the idea of that video and the inspiration to make that. So thank you so much for that. That really means a lot. Prodigal Inc. says, wow, that's awesome evening plans. Yeah, it should be fun. We really, you know, one of the best and surprising things about the combination of the guest house and our YouTube channel is that 20% of our guests, our first year, were people who were familiar with our story and had seen our YouTube or our Instagram, and they specifically came to our guest house because they had read about or seen our story online. So it's not all of our guests, but it is fairly common that when someone comes and stays, they want to chat, they want to talk about things, you know, or they've seen the house online already and they've seen our videos, watched the renovation, and are excited to be here. So part of our hosting, we're very attentive, hands-on hosts, so we do all the cleaning and greeting and everything ourselves. But in addition to that, you know, at least 20% of the guests want to talk and they want to hear stories and they want to ask questions, and so that's part of the fun. It adds to it, and I think that's part of the reason that our guest house has been you know, picking up quickly. So you know, it's not a huge income stream for us yet, but it's getting there and it's building, and part of that is in thanks to the YouTube channel, which is encouraging for us to keep doing this as well. So we love growing our little community here. Meg says she rewatches that video all the time. Seems like the guest house itself is a cool opportunity for networking and collaboration. Yes, definitely. So it's a great way to get people here. People can come visit. You know, we've got our guest next week has requested that we meet with them and take them out to the honeybee yard. She says her son loves honeybees, so we're gonna bring some veils and let them see the honeybees from a little bit of a safe distance. So it's great. I really love it. It works out really well. I wouldn't have thought, you know, that the guest house and the YouTube would go together so well, but it's allowed us to meet some really interesting people who are extra interested in the guest house and in the story itself. So, and now that we are about ending, Bosco is going to sleep here. Let's tilt the camera down a little bit. You can see what we've got going on. We've got Bosco snoozing behind me and Pongkan here on my lap. So he finally calmed down right at the end. I sort of thought it would work out that way, but anyways, I think we're wrapping it up here, guys. We've got 2 minutes left, but we're probably gonna want to sign off here because Evan's gonna go get bees, and I've got to get busy at the guest house. But Meg says at the last minute here, everyone I know who wants to visit Japan, I show them your videos. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Maybe someday, you know, you or your friends will decide they want to come out and ride the bicycles across the Shimanami Kaido. So most of our guests are riding bicycles. Punkon on the lap. Yep, he's been here the whole time. Say hi to Meg, Punkon. Oh, buddy. And Toaster's best friend says, thanks for sharing and answering all our questions. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for all the super chats and for all the great questions and
recommendations for future topics. That's always helpful too. Padre de la Verde says thank you. Thank you, guys.
Good to meet some new friends here today.
Yeah, this was a great one. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. And we'll see you in the next video, and the next live stream will be a month from now. Prodigal Link says, see you next month. All right, y'all. Have a good one.
Sayonara.
Mata ne.